right, what is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo sports talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Thank you so much for watching, for listening. However you decide to consume this podcast, I do appreciate you guys very, very much. Today's show is presented by the law offices of William Mattar. Heard of the car? Call William Mattar. 444-4444. Call William Mattar today to get the compensation that you deserve. All right, folks, this is our Thursday podcast. On the video side, we are actually live here late on a Wednesday night. I'm joined right now by my good buddy, recurring guest broadcaster, Steve Bermel. What's going on, man? How you doing?
What's up, Pat? I'm excited to talk about Bills and Sabres. Some exciting things happening on both fronts. I was at the game last night and last Tuesday. And, man, always excited when you send a message over and saying, hey, can you hop on? And for the look behind the curtain, I've been stiffing you a couple times. No, I can't do tonight. No, sorry. So I was excited. I said, yeah, man, I'm in for tonight. And I think I even sent you the heart emoji. Like, yeah, man, you got me tonight. We're in. So excited to talk with you, man.
Well, I'm glad to have you on the show, buddy. I really am. So we're going to talk, like I said, primarily Bills, but we are going to get to some Sabres stuff. The OT Merchant Buffalo Sabres right now, 5 straight games. They've went to overtime. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. We're going to talk about Keon Coleman kind of at length. I call it the Keon Coleman conundrum. We're going to dive into that on this episode, and we're definitely going to talk about the Bills as it pertains to them with the NFL trade deadline. No trades, of course, everybody knows that by now. So we're going to dive into that. Does Brandon Beane deserve some heat if this team falls short? I want to talk to you and everybody who's listening and watching about that today. I also want to let you know, if you happen to be watching this on the live side, if you're on YouTube, of course, you can comment as always. If you're watching this on Twitter or Facebook, this platform's weird. Sometimes it lets your comments go through and sometimes it doesn't. So if you want to be seen, if you want your comment or question to be seen, make sure you go to the Talking Buffalo YouTube channel, subscribe while you're there, hit up this video, and you can comment for sure on there. There will be some comments I don't get to. However, make sure you leave them because I will go through them after, and I might use some of them for a pod bag episode that I plan on doing over the next few days as well. Steve, let me start here. I'm struggling a little bit right now, this whole season, and right now as we speak, when it comes to the Buffalo Bills, to really enjoy what's a promising season. You know, the Bills are 6-2 right now. Okay, the thought that maybe the demise was happening after 2 ugly losses going into a bye, obviously that was very greatly exaggerated. They are in the thick of everything right now. They're in the thick of the number 1 seed in the AFC. I believe, as we're streaming this on a Wednesday night, I do believe that they are the current Super Bowl betting favorites again at the very top. They beat the Chiefs. All this good stuff, despite injuries, bad injuries that have happened on the field and some stuff off it as well. Like, this seems good. They just beat the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Life's enjoyable. It should be anyway. But here's the thing, man. It's hard to balance the enjoyment of another promising season right now versus being critical, objectively critical, I think, at least in most cases anyway, of some things that are going on with this team in terms of underperforming in some areas, in terms of not adding to the roster when you have a chance before the trade deadline, things like that where you're negative about the team, but it could come off as being too critical. Like you're being overly negative because you're speaking down to a team that is 6-2 right now. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm having a real tough time, and maybe this has been the case for the last couple of years, but I'm having a real tough time balancing the positive and the negative aspects of this team right now. I don't know how you feel.
Yeah. Obviously beating the Chiefs is huge. When you talk about being in the thick of the 1 seed, that's the huge tiebreaker that you need. What is it? 3 games, basically a 3-game lead now, right? They have 4 losses. The Bills have 2, and you've beaten them. So,
yeah.
And when I think about Beane, forgive me, you put a whole lot out there, Pat. I got to try to rewind a little bit.
Go ahead,
So,
man. Take
let
your
me
time.
let's
Take your
go
time,
back to
buddy.
Beane, right? And if he
Sure.
should be on the hot seat if they don't win. There's two reasons why I would say no, maybe even three. One, this is the best iteration of the Bills that we've had in a very long time, so maybe that's reason number one. And he gets some credit for that. And you can say, oh, they got lucky and got Josh Allen. Well, they drafted him, right? They didn't get lucky entirely. They moved up, got him, and that was their guy, and they've developed him.
Sure.
Secondly, do you believe if they had $5 million more in cap space on deadline day, they would have made a trade?
That's a great question, Steve. From what I hear, see, I'm hesitant to answer
Sure.
because from what I hear, the trades that weren't made might have had more to do with what they would have had to give up to get the player as opposed to what the ramification would have been against the salary cap. That said, I do think if they had more cap available, maybe there's a couple players that weren't in play because there was just no way to make it work that maybe other players could have potentially been in play. It's a great question, though.
And I think that when you look at that, because I definitely think that's a factor, like you look at teams that had cap space and they were able to add, or they're always able to add, the reason they don't have cap space is because Brandon Beane is spent to the cap. And we get on the Sabres shit for not spending to the cap. What are you doing with all this cap space? And
Yeah.
I'm not here to say that the deadline doesn't matter, but every year Beane loads up in the offseason. And unfortunately, like with Von Miller, he gets hurt and that doesn't work out. With Michael Hoyt, he gets hurt. With Ogunjobi, he's suspended. I think they knew he was going to be suspended when they signed him. But all these injuries and stuff stacking up, it's like, man, when you look at the offseason acquisitions, even Josh Palmer is hurt right now. And when we talk about separation and downfield threat, he seemed to be developing into a guy that could be a solution to that. And it looks like I have Bills colored glasses on now, but all of these things do matter. They are factors. And they are so banged up right now. And a lot of the guys that are banged up are guys that Beane has brought in the offseason to make this team better, to give them a better chance at a run. Ed Oliver's a draft pick that has worked out very, very well, and he's gone for at least the regular season. Michael Hoyt looked like he was going to, this guy plays with his hair on fire. He loses 6 games of suspension and now is injured for maybe a calendar year. So it's hard because all offseason you can see Brandon Beane making moves, whether it was Curtis Samuel 2 years ago, Josh Palmer this year, to try to add to the receiving room. You can see him making marked moves to add to the pass rush, and that I think is working out this year with Bosa and those kinds of guys. And then we get to the deadline, and it's like, well, why didn't he do anything to try to improve the team? He every year swings to improve the team. I don't think he's a conservative GM. He's out paying edge rushers and receivers. Curtis Samuel got paid a decent amount of money. Like, so did Palmer. Like, they went out and they're trying to find guys. I feel like they're just doing it in the offseason instead of the trade deadline. And because they make so many additions in the offseason, it makes the trade deadline harder. And I will put a bow on all of this, Pat, by saying I'm upset they couldn't pull off one trade yesterday. I don't know even if I could tell you why. Just it feels like maybe, I don't know, there's a silver bullet out there. Oh, if you just added X, Y, or Z, they'd finally win the Super Bowl. And I think that just might exist in between my ears. That might not exist in reality.
I'll say this. So in terms of the Bills, you asked me if they had $5 million, if things would have been different. If one of the things I think is fair to be critical about are some of the contracts that Brandon Beane has signed off on.
Sure.
We're talking about Curtis Samuel here, who, by the way, is a player that I really like. I like Curtis Samuel. This is a whole other conversation. I feel like it's more of a Joe Brady conversation and also a Curtis Samuel can't stay healthy conversation. But I really thought coming off the bye that he was going to be a difference maker. Then to go to Carolina, and it didn't matter, but he didn't have a target in that game.
Targeted.
He didn't even have one single target. And then this past game against Kansas City, and again, it didn't matter. The offense scored 4 touchdowns. He had 1 catch for 6 yards. So it's like, you look at that contract. Look, every GM around the league would like to have some contracts back. I'm not saying Brandon Beane's terrible at giving out contracts, and everyone else is no. It's not what I'm saying compared to others. But there's that. That Benford contract is, or not Benford. I'm sorry, not Benford. Bernard. The Bernard contract right now is starting to scare me a little bit. The Dawson Knox contract, we've seen that. So they could have had more money if things would have been handled a little differently. Now, that said, one thing that you said that I think carries a lot of water that's not fair to Brandon Beane are the injuries to players that he paid. I think Josh Palmer is a good football player, and he had a really good start in Atlanta. He has a 45-yard catch down the field, 2 catches for 60 yards. He gets hurt, and he's done, and he's been out since. He's a good player, not a great player, but he's a good player, a good fit, a good complementary piece to this offense, okay? So he's hurt. That's not fair to Brandon Beane. Michael Hoyt, 7 quarters. What did you see in 7 quarters? I saw a lot in 7 quarters. He looked like one hell of a bargain, and he gets hurt. That's not on Brandon Beane. Let's just pretend we live in a world for the fun of it where Josh Palmer does not get hurt and Michael Hoyt does not get hurt. The makeup of this roster, one on each side of the ball, just from those free agent signings, looks different. And I'll also give Brandon Beane credit for this. So far, knock on wood, and I'm knocking hard because his wrist is bothering him right now again, and he didn't practice. But Joey Bosa at $12.6 million has been, and I can't believe I'm saying this, a bargain. He has been a bargain. He has been the most consistently good Bills pass rusher this season. 4 sacks, 4 forced fumbles, and metrically in terms of like pass rush win rate and pressure percentage and things like that, he's quite literally near the top of the entire NFL. He has been a revelation. He's looked like a stud. Hopefully that injury isn't much. And he also gave James Cook his money. Who knows what kind of James Cook you're getting in week 1 if James Cook's still looking for a contract. You know what I mean? I don't know that you get the same thing. So he does deserve credit. I'll give you that.
How about the depth players that he has too? Like, we're talking about top-end talent that we would like for him to go get. The Bills just played Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce without their starting safety from week 1, without arguably the best nickel cornerback in the NFL, not so much this year, without Matt Milano or a linebacker that really would lock up Kelce and cover him, without Dorian Strong. You got Cam Lewis and Jordan Hancock and Jordan Poyer, and Mahomes was under 50% passing with an interception. Like, I think that is also a credit to what Beane and McDermott have built that they don't get enough credit for. Yeah, maybe they don't have the 1,000-yard receiver, that we wish they had in, Keon Coleman or an outside threat, but they've got a 4th-string cornerback that, locked up Worthy and Rice well enough that they kept Patrick Mahomes under 50% receiving. Or they've got a veteran safety that everybody laughed at them bringing back, and that dude has been a calming presence back there. You can call it a coincidence that all of a sudden Poyer is playing and the defense looks this much better, especially in the secondary, and all of a sudden Cole Bishop has found his game. And you love Hancock and the speed that he plays with, and that's a draft pick that looks to be, Hancock saved a touchdown, I think it was 2 weeks ago, and then the Bills ended up forcing a turnover, I think, or a field goal or something. So there's got to be credit there too. We want the splash play. We want the Bills to trade for, top 10 receiver or 20 receiver in the league. And I get why. I understand why. But this team, as decimated as they are by injuries, without a number 1 wide receiver, I think they've got Dalton Kincaid, who freaking is great. But without, their defensive tackles, without their nickel cornerback, and by the way, this is the team that base defense is nickel, it beat the Chiefs. They only gave up 2 touchdowns. Like, they're still a phenomenal team, and that has to be a tick in the column for Beane being a great GM as well.
It does. Now, all these compliments that were given Brandon Beane kind of leads to me, the title of this episode is something along the lines of should the heat get cranked up on Brandon Beane, which more is if they fall short come January, should the heat get cranked up on him? Suggesting he gets fired is just silly talk. That is not happening. No. Just like Sean McDermott, that is not happening. So if you're a Bills fan thinking, well, if they lose to the Chiefs in the playoffs again, Terry McGould's got to make changes. He's going to get rid of Beane. He's going to get rid of Sean. That ain't happening. So get that thought out of your head. But I'm talking about the heat getting cranked up. And now I'm going to use some of my compliments against myself and against him. What were we just talking about? How it's unfair that Michael Hoyt got hurt. That's not on Brandon Beane. How it's unfair that Ed Oliver who was looking like an all-pro defensive tackle in his few games this year, he's hurt. Josh Palmer, hurt. Teron Johnson didn't play in this game.
And
Hurt.
T.J. Sanders, another
T.J.
defensive
Sanders
tackle.
is
That's another
that,
defensive lineman.
a guy you moved up for in the second round. Hurt. Daquan Jones, your starting defensive tackle, has been hurt. Terrell Bernard is hobbling around. Hurt. Here's the thing, Steve. You know all this going into the trade deadline. You know that these injuries are going on. That they're not. The trade deadline happened after all this stuff, not before it. So you could circle back and say, cap things aside. You can make ways. There's levers you could pull. There were ways to make things happen. So I do think it is fair. It's fair always for fans to feel any kind of way they want to feel. Well, I never tell fans how they should feel. I think it's fair to objectively be critical that Brandon Beane was unable to make a trade. I don't know if you had a chance to listen to a lot of his comments on Wednesday afternoon when he spoke to the media. He pretty much said he wanted to make a trade. Yeah. He said it. He said he would have lost money in Vegas if he was betting on the Bills, making a trade. Yep. And he also admitted, he said, I went home. This is his direct quote. I went home as mad as any other fan. I wanted to do things to make the team better, but I also believe in our team. I believe we can win a championship with this roster. Well, that's coach speak. Of course you believe in your team. But my point is he wanted to. I feel like, I don't think it was a plan B. Like he had one or two guys that he was really trying to target in the division, apparently. That's a lot of speculation about that too. Didn't happen. Didn't feel like he really pivoted to anything. There could have been deals to be made. Now, they're not the only good team that didn't make trades. But again, this is a team that's been kind of decimated by injuries at a position or two that's just not played that well. So I do think he deserves criticism for not being able to pull off a trade. That's his job at the end of the day, to find a way.
We also know, though, this dude loves draft picks. And maybe he's not wrong to. He will trade back every single time. And I think most times it's a poor value to trade up because, more kicks at the can is going to be more likely to find success. And a lot of times you can trade up into the top 3 for a quarterback that busts out or doesn't play well for you. Or, ultimately I think trading back for Keon Coleman makes it maybe a little easier to swallow because he's not a true first round pick at this point. I don't know. I don't think I ever expected him to package like multiple draft picks for a player because it's not his nature. Like he would rather have 10 or 11 picks in a draft than 4 or 5. He just is always going to be that way, in part because, it's cap savvy and the way that they kind of build the depth around Allen. We saw the comment that he's not going to pay anyone $30+ million unless it's Josh Allen. And, that's kind of the other end of the extreme. You have the Bengals who have half their roster, half their salary cap tied up on 3 players, basically. Sure. With Burrow, Chase, and Higgins. And it's almost like it's a joke because there's no offensive line. Their defense gets shredded. What happened this past week with the Bears with 20 seconds to go or whatever, and 2 Bengals crash into each other and they lose in the dying seconds. Like, I almost would rather it be more conservative in this way. But, I feel like if Beane was truly a conservative GM, I would be more critical. But every offseason we've seen him make big signings of pass rushers and receivers, and they haven't worked out. And you can criticize him for that with Vaughn not working out. Although before he got hurt, he had a sack a game on average. And with, Samuel just seems like a total dud for the amount of money, even for without the amount of money they're paying him. He it feels like doesn't even deserve a spot on the roster. But I don't think he's ultra conservative. I think he's more conservative with his draft picks, and he, played this trade deadline incredibly conservative. But, people that get mad about the Bills pass rush, it's like, shit, it's not for lack of trying. This guy is drafting, pass rushers early, and he's signing huge name pass rushing free agents to try to make a difference. Even like Leonard Floyd was a great signing, just an edge rusher to get to the quarterback. He's always trying. He knows in this league to win football games, you need a quarterback and you got to get to their quarterback. And they look at what happened on Sunday. Allen was surgical and the Bills defense put Mahomes on his ass time and time again, and you beat the Chiefs.
You talk about Brandon Beane and liking his draft picks, and you're right. And he's hit on a lot of the non-early one. Like, where would the middle of this defense be in 2025 did he not take Deion Walker in the 4th round? Move up to go get Deion Walker in the 4th round. So I do. I get that. I just think when it comes to trades in season, especially, he's not willing to mortgage the future to do something drastic in season. He's the anti Howie Roseman from Philadelphia.
Yep.
Like Howie will keep trading forever to give up seconds and thirds or whatever in season two. They got Jalen Phillips right before the trade deadline.
Yep.
That's his mindset. Works or not, he's a risk taker.
Yep.
Brandon Beane, I'm not saying Brandon Beane's not a risk taker, but he's much more calculated. And I think the frustration beyond just the trade deadline or the lack of not getting something done is the fear, I think, in a lot of fans and just people who follow the team. This team has been so good for so long, but they haven't broken through.
Yep.
Depending on to me, breaking through is getting to the Super Bowl. When you have arguably the best player in football and, the reigning MVP, and you've been in the mix every year since 2019, especially 2020. You've been to the AFC Championship twice. You lost because of 13 seconds in a divisional round. You lost by a field goal in the divisional round. You lost by one possession late last season in the AFC title game. You start to get worried that Josh Allen, who's, he's 29, is going to be 30 years old. How long is it going to be this iteration of Josh Allen? You start to get concerned. And the thought, Steve, 10 years from now, God willing, we're both healthy and alive and we're talking Buffalo or whatever the hell we're doing 10 years from now, having a conversation, and we look back at this era of football and they didn't do everything they could possibly do to get their quarterback every weapon imaginable. I think too much now. I know James Cook's been incredible this season. I still say at the end of the day, there's too much put on Josh Allen to go be great in the passing game because they just don't have that receiver to bail you out like they had with Stephon Diggs for a handful of years. They don't have that, and Everybody Eats was fun last year, and it works at times now too, but I still say there's times where you got to go get your number one, and they don't have that, and I think there's a lot of people rightfully annoyed that Brandon Beane didn't go change that yesterday.
Yeah, you look at the Rams, when they made their Super Bowl, there was a couple of years where they just pushed all the chips to the middle of the table. And they made a bit of a deal with the devil. Now, I understand the Rams are having a great year this year, but they had some lean years in between that Super Bowl. For a couple of years, things were pretty rough for them because they didn't have capital, once their free agents left, once Von Miller was gone and Cooper Kupp got to be 33 years old and, Whitworth retires like you all of a sudden. But, they pushed the chips to the center of the table in the hopes of winning a Super Bowl, and they got it. And man, if I would give anything for the Bills to win a Super Bowl, and I know Brandon Beane would as well. Like, who wouldn't want everything possible? And that is where there's room for criticism. And I'm sitting here now, Pat, and I'm like, man, maybe if we talk in March and they didn't do it for some reason, we can look back at this deadline and say, man, they should have done something. But we don't know. This team is still. What does Vegas know? They still have the Bills as the odds-on favorite to win. Now that the Bills have beaten the Chiefs, I don't know if they're still the favorite to be the one seed. But like the other reality is them not making any moves. All of a sudden, Ed Oliver comes back for the divisional round. You have a healthy secondary for the most part. You have Milano healthy. You have most of your defensive line back, and you roll into the playoffs, and they do it. You're going to say, and the guy didn't have to give anything up. And, this team, I guess at the end of the day, there are people beyond fans of this team that think that they're good enough to win the Super Bowl, including people like the Vegas bookies who have a lot of money to lose if they're wrong, or in this case, if they're wrong, if they had the Bills as plus 500 instead of plus 400, they're going to lose a lot more money. What do they know? They know that the Bills are a really good team. You've got the same people that were Colin Cowherd saying the Chiefs by 10 are now saying the Bills are the class of the league. Like the same people that were dogging them 2 weeks ago are basically saying they're the team to beat. And that's not because they're fans of the team. So I know we do this all the time, Pat. It's like we always seem like we're complaining, but it's almost like it's good to talk about. Like it's good content to talk about.
Yeah.
We can't just come on here and say the Bills are great, everything's great, Allen's great, James Cook is great, they beat the Chiefs. That's boring. Nobody wants to talk about that. And I also feel like this is good because you and I don't think agree 100%. which I think is making for good conversation here. So I think there's value to it, but I feel like every episode we do, we got to qualify it. We know the Bills are good. We love the Bills. Brandon Beane's built a great team. McDermott is good. Allen is great. They're 6-2. We're not being critical. We don't hate the Bills. Like, I feel like we always end up in the same spot. But if they get shown the door in the divisional round, or God forbid the wild card round, I hope they don't even play a wild card game this year. If they get shown the door, everyone will put their finger right on, what was the date yesterday, November 3rd.
Yeah.
And be like, why didn't you do anything? And they certainly will have a leg to stand on should they opt to do that.
If the Bills lose in whatever round they lose in, and they lose because receivers just aren't making plays, and you look at and then the Joe Marinos and the Greg Thompsons and all the analytical people start to show you stats, and nobody was getting open and throwing it up on the film. Yeah, there's going to be a hellstorm. There's definitely going to be a hellstorm, which kind of leads to the title of the show. And to your point, I always feel like I got to preface things, because I'm going, no matter what you say, you're going to get accused of being negative. Even the title alone, constitutes being negative about the team. But you know what? You just got to deal with certain people who feel that kind of way. I'll say, look, at the end of the day, I think with Brandon Beane, I think he's a ballsy dude for the most part. Pretty aggressive. I certainly think he has an ego. I certainly think he has a sensitivity to criticism as well. He doesn't like it too much. He'll clap back at you, and I respect that. You know what? If I'm gonna talk shit about Brandon Beane, he's got a right to clap back at me. He should. Good for him. I would. I know that. So that's not me hating on him. I'm actually giving him respect for that. So that's not really an insult. But I think at the end of the day, he'll be aggressive, like you said, during the offseason. He'll pull the trigger. He did it with Vaughn. He did it with Stephon Diggs.
Yep.
I think during the in-season, his philosophy is he wants to have wax at the piñata every single year. And I think his fear is pushing his chips all in, like the Rams did with Von Miller, and then you don't win a Super Bowl, and now you're missing 2 valuable picks, or 2 picks and a player, or something along those lines. That's kind of, I feel like that's the Brandon thing. Let me get to 2 questions that were in the live chat here. And again, if you're leaving questions or comments or takes, I'll try to get to some, and if I can't, I will probably pull some for a future pod bag. But John Sanders says, and you can answer this, were you guys surprised the Patriots, Broncos, Chargers, and Chiefs all did nothing too? Are you surprised?
Yeah. I mean, I thought at least, these teams are poised to strike, and you either are a buyer or a seller at the deadline. And, maybe it was just more of a seller's market. I don't know, that like I was surprised that the Chiefs didn't find some way to finagle somebody, because everybody's going to want to go and play in Kansas City. I'm surprised that the Broncos didn't try to load up. The Broncos played the Chiefs twice, correct? Like the Broncos the Chiefs still have to play the Broncos twice, I believe. Right?
Yes, they do. They got to play Denver twice and the Chargers still, and they still got to play at Dallas. They got some games coming up, man.
I'm just thinking, like, why wouldn't they have bolstered, for the Patriots to keep the lead in the East? And it makes you wonder, you can't tell me that all 5 of these GMs weren't calling and kicking tires, and it makes you wonder what the market looked like. The Bills weren't the only team. That's another thing that we really haven't talked about. This makes it a great question. The Bills weren't the only team that didn't make a move that are poised to make a Super Bowl run this year. And, and then the teams that did, like the Colts, it's like, holy fuck, they gave up 2 firsts for in my opinion, an above average defensive back. Like, and the Cowboys trading for Quinnen Williams. I'm like, you just lost to Jacoby Brissett and the Cardinals, and you're adding a defensive tackle. If you're trying to get the defensive line better, why wouldn't you just get a guy like, I don't know, Micah Parsons to try to help you?
I get it, man. I really do. I'm looking at somebody's comments trying to keep up here. Hey, Barbara said, I agree with both you guys, but no matter what, let's go Bandits. One more, then we'll get to a break too. HAA and Cakes 50 says Allen is almost 30. The Patriots are coming. Time is running out. Need a stud at wide receiver. Well, is Keon Coleman going to become that stud at wide receiver? Tell you what, we're going to take a quick 5-second break on the video side. We'll be right back because I got a lot of thoughts on Keon Coleman. All right, back here talking Buffalo, presented by William Matar. Heard in a car, call William Matar. Steve, Keon Coleman, I just, listen, I I just don't think he's the guy, okay? I'm just going to say it. I think the Bills are doing themselves a disservice right now if they think otherwise. If they're so, and I'm not saying they are, but if they are bent on proving that he is what they want him to be, I think it is going to hurt them. And I also want to be clear in fairness to Keon Coleman. I do not think Keon Coleman is a bad football player. I think Keon Coleman is a bad fit for the Buffalo Bills with the skill sets. That's where I'm at. And he has that game. 8 catches, a buck 14, a touchdown in week 1 against Baltimore. I don't remember if it was you. Honestly, Steve, I do 5 of these freaking shows a week. I can't remember who the hell I say what to anymore, honestly. But I almost likened that game, I think it might have been you, where when you go to the casino for the first time and you get really lucky and you win. And it can end up being the worst thing that ever happened to you. You walk out like, oh, this shit is nice, man. I went in there with $40 and I'm walking out with $350. You kidding me? This is awesome. Then you go back there and you lose. And you lose 80 of that. Then you lose 100. Next thing you know, you're down. And now you're going to the casino all the time. You ain't winning shit. Beginner's luck. Okay, now Keon's had a couple good games last year as a rookie too. But that game, stud game. And since then, which by the way is not a game or 2 games or 3 games, 6 games. Oh, whoa. 7 games since the season opener, okay? Keon Coleman, 21 catches for 170 yards and 1 touchdown in his last 7 games combined. He's averaging 3 catches for 24 yards per game. Over the course of a season, that pace that he's been on the last 7 games, 51 catches for 413 yards. And that's yucky, to use a baby term. That's yucky. But here's the worst thing. He's playing 72% of the snaps. By far, more than anyone among the receivers, by far. Elijah Moore has only played 40% of the snaps once. Curtis Samuel has played under 50% of the snaps in every game he's being. $10 million a year, Samuel. This dude is hogging up snaps, reps, and he's not producing. I really, that's not a question for you. Add if you'd like. I'm befuddled right now. So when I think that could they have improved? Yes, because you could have upgraded that position and the Bills just steadfastly aren't doing it.
You know what I hate the most about Keon Coleman's game right now?
Hmm.
When he catches the ball, you're surprised. My
Yeah.
wife's an avid fan. Like, she's not like the typical, on the couch not paying. My wife and I are like, we watch Bills games together. She is an avid fan of the team. And when Coleman makes the catch, she's like, oh, there he is. It's like, fuck, this was your first round pick last year. I know he wasn't the first round pick, but like, man, like, this guy has become so irrelevant that when he gets the ball, you're pleasantly surprised. And it's like, what is going on here? And it's maddening because, like you said, I was going to bring it up. You stole my thunder on. The guy plays more snaps than any other wide receiver. It makes no sense. And part of me is wondering, like, when Allen said after, was it the Falcons game, I'm not trusting what I see out there. There was something about trust. And if it's an issue with him not trusting Coleman, they've got bigger problems. And if it's an issue with Coleman, remember he gets benched for the first quarter or first drive for an off the field issue or whatever. If it's an issue with that, why is he playing more snaps than anyone else? There is a disconnect
by
here.
a lot.
Yes, there is a disconnect here between whatever is causing his ineffectiveness in the game plan. I am watching Dalton Kincaid and James Cook be on the sideline on the same play on a 3rd and 4, which makes my head spin. Your top 2 offensive players are not on the field for a 3rd down play because reasons. I have no clue. But you're telling me the guy who's averaging 20 yards a game on 3 catches is playing 3 out of 4 snaps, leading the receiving room, and they have a ton of receivers that you would think they want to rotate in. I am utterly confused how he is leading the receiver room in snaps played without the numbers to show for it. And once again, whatever is causing this issue, be it his effectiveness on the field, be it his trust relationship with Josh Allen, be it the off-field bullshit that I know nothing about and I'm not claiming to, there is a very real, the math ain't mathin'. It doesn't make sense. And I don't know what the answer is. I don't know if it's Brady. I don't know if it's but it seems to me if he's not going to be effective, just play him less. And we might even be less upset about it. I don't know.
I'm going to reiterate and stand by what I heard last week, and that before the Chiefs game, maybe things have changed. He ain't happy about some things, and nor are the Bills. I heard that from somebody I trust. I said it last week. I don't know that anything's changed, but something isn't right. I want to get to a couple comments, and one of them is an excellent comment. I've thought about this a lot, and I want to put up there. It's from Alex Barber 762, and he says, patience paid off for Bishop, might be the same for Coleman. This is the problem. First of all, with Cole Bishop, that part is accurate. That is accurate. Patience paid off with Cole Bishop, which, by the way, Cole Bishop was a machine against the Chiefs. Yeah. He had 4 pass breakups in that game. I went and I did the stats research. Last season, Damar Hamlin and Taylor Rapp combined had 5 pass breakups combined for the entire season, including the playoffs. Cole Bishop had 4 in one game, but that's not the point here. About a month or so ago, I was done with Cole Bishop. I feel like an idiot now for admitting it, but I was. And patience paid off. This guy is growing by leaps and bounds. And now, dare say, by the end of the season, he might be a pivotal part of this defense, Cole Bishop. He's looking good. I get that. And I want to feel that way with Cole Bishop. The difference is Cole Bishop had the physical skill set, I believe, to play well at the position he plays. For me, it was about putting other aspects of his game together, which we're starting to see. Keon Coleman, the issue, again, I don't hate the player. He's an ex-boundary receiver on this team. He can't get open. He can't separate. That's not going to change. You think he's going to become better at separating and route running later? He's not. You can either run routes and you could separate, or you can't. If you wanted to say, well, he's dropping too many passes, maybe the focus isn't there. That's fair. He could get better at doing that. Maybe his mental approach to the game. Maybe his willingness to block more. Those are areas of his game where if you say patience pays off, I would agree with you 100%. But being able to consistently win at the line, man-to-man coverage, separate from the defender, often quickly, he's not doing that. He's not going to. He should not be playing that X-boundary. He should be a big slot, but there's no room for him to do that with the Buffalo Bills. That's how I feel. Do you agree with that?
I disagree with the take because Bishop was still marinating. Bishop was still sitting behind Rapp and was a Poyer last year, right? Am I crazy?
Yeah. No, it was Rapp and Hamlin. Rapp and Hamlin before the injury.
Hamlin, sorry. He was still marinating. Coleman's not. Like, patience paid off with Bishop because he's starting to come into his own, but how many games has he started? 10? Like, I don't know. Like, he didn't play a ton last year. I don't know the exact number, but it always felt like Bishop was still in training and it wasn't his position yet. He wasn't. They have handed Coleman the fucking wide receiver 1 starting position. Well, like, I don't have patience for that. I'm sorry. Like, there's a difference between a player who's still learning the ropes and still has some things to figure out, who, you know, we knew was kind of a project. Cole Bishop was still a project on the Buffalo Bills. Keon Coleman, in my opinion, was given the keys, and I don't think he's a project. I'm okay with saying that he still could work out, and we might need to be patient. But to me, the scenario that Cole Bishop was in, he wasn't drafted to be the starting safety. Coleman was drafted to be this team's number 1 wide receiver.
Yeah, I agree with you. Shout out Student Body, right? He was at Sunny Residence, my guy over at Duke Champions. All right, here's how I feel about Keon Coleman, besides the obvious rants, too. Ideally, if I'm Sean McDermott and if I'm Joe Brady and if I'm Brandon Beane, and obviously I ain't none of those dudes, man, but to me, the ceiling for Keon Coleman, the type of player he is, he's last year's Beck Hollins. That's what I feel like. He's a good blocker. He is a good blocker, and that's why he's playing as much as he's playing, at least in part. He's playing because he is a good blocker. He has the occasional nice plays. It doesn't feel that way right now because he hasn't had one since week 1, but he's done it before. He had a big game. The difference, though, is Mac Hollins is a journeyman,
correct,
and this guy was your top of the second round pick that
Mac
you
Hollins
gave
was your
up.
5th receiver.
you gave up on taking Xavier Worthy, or if you want to look at it as, well, whatever, the trade, who cares? Well, Ladd McConkey went one pick later, so you got to live with that. But to me, he's like Matt Collins on this team was last year. Ideally, he should be. I think the role for Keon Coleman, if you want him to be useful to this team and you want your offense to be potentially at its best, to hit its full potential, the way I feel is Keon Coleman should be, when they run a lot of that big package, when they bring in Reggie Gilliam and Jackson Hawes, Keon Coleman should be out with those guys. You can run the football. You can throw out of it some play action. That works. Those are the kind of packages primarily I would have Keon Coleman in. When this passing and you got to throw, it should be Kincaid and Shakir, and then it should be 2 of the 3. Palmer, Samuel, Moore, if they're all healthy and going, 2 of those 3 guys should be in there, not Keon Coleman. That's just the way I feel. He's a big sub-package kind of guy to me at this point. Red zone, you get inside the 20, big red zone target, I want him out there. But if it's 3rd and 7, if it's 2nd and 10 because James Cook got stuffed at the line because the defense is starting to sell out to the run, I just think having Keon Coleman out there is just a complete waste. And I don't think it's going to change either.
I agree. That's a great way to put it. But the only pushback to that is he was your first-round pick.
I know.
He was drafted to be the dog. I don't disagree with anything you're saying. That they're utilizing him incorrectly. But the reason he's still the boundary starting wide receiver 1 is because of the draft capital they invested in him. They used their all but first-round pick on him, and that's what happens when they get the longer leash. They get the there's more investment in them, so they get more playing time. And I don't know. I think that they're just maybe wishful thinking that he's gonna figure it out, and whatever's going on, I don't know that it's gonna work out. And if that's what he relegates to, Pat, and it's effective, I'd almost rather see that than have him out there 72% of the snaps with 2 targets.
I can't deal with the 72% of the snaps. That really bothers me. I spent a good chunk of my day because I ain't got shit else to do. Look at that snap counts for all the receivers, and I mean, it's just ridiculous. Khalil Shakir's out there as much as he should be for what he does.
He should get the ball more.
Yeah, sure. Keon Coleman, and I think he will. Keon Coleman's just out there way too much, and the other guys, not enough. Here's a comment. When Gabe Davis is ready, he will take over for Coleman. Davis can block really well, too. I'll tell you this. If there's somebody who's going to take that spot on this team, I can see it. I can see it. I can see Gabe Davis getting a look. He's a lot of people are like, well, there's your trade deadline pickup. First of all, fuck that.
No.
second. But I could see him. Gabe Davis is going to get a look. Let me ask you, do you think Gabe Davis is going to be up? Not only is he going to be up, but is he going to be up sooner than later?
Yep. And Josh might trust him more than
I believe
any
that.
receiver on the roster right now. Maybe Shakir. Mixed in all this, I see some comments about Kincaid. I hope and pray that Allen realizes what a weapon he has in Kincaid, and that's not a shot at Allen. But, man, you talk about Allen not having a wide receiver 1. There was another comment about that. He needs a go-to guy. And they said, but Kincaid is a tight end. Who cares? Mm-hmm. There's been so many teams, including very good teams like, I don't know, the Kansas City Chiefs, where the guy was their tight end. Fine by me. If they're a freak like Kelsey or Kincaid are that are that size and can move like that and get open like that, throw him the ball 8 times a game. I don't care. If Kincaid settles in to be the best receiver this team has, not only will I be more content, everyone will be, because you'll have a guy out there who's getting 100 yards a game and that Allen is trusting in, and that's going to move the ball. And that alleviates so many other things and so much pressure in so many other directions. For a while there, the Chiefs just kind of had some guys out there besides Kelsey and still went to the Super Bowl and won it. Obviously now they've got some top end wide receiver talent, but I don't buy for 1 second that your tight end can't be the best weapon your quarterback has in an effective NFL offense. I absolutely think you can. I almost think there's a secret sauce to that. If you find a guy like Gronk or like Kelsey, I think you've got a cheat code.
Oh, I completely agree with you 100%. You know what's funny about this offense is when you look at it, you start saying, sometimes we're not necessarily us. People will talk about at times this offense like it's the Panthers offense, you know what I mean? Or like it's the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, this obviously the quarterback goes without saying. James Cook has emerged, I feel like, as one of the best 5 running backs in the NFL right now. Dalton Kincaid is quickly emerging as one of the maybe 5 best pass-catching tight ends right now in the NFL, now that he's become more than just a quick little safety valve like he kind of was his rookie year. He's becoming dangerous. He's stretching the field.
Yeah,
He's
someone
making
just said
plays.
Dalton will not stretch the field. That is false. On
That's
the play that
crazy. Who
on the
said
play
that?
that Dawson Knox made the catch and got tackled out of bounds at the 5, Kincaid was on the seam 10 yards inside with a walk-in touchdown. And that was a 40-yard play. And Kincaid was down the seam, wide open. It was busted coverage. Kincaid over the middle on that one crossing route, like that deep crossing route where he just beat his linebacker that Allen had a little bit of time. Kincaid absolutely can stretch the field.
Who said that? I want to know. I want to shame somebody. You tell me who it is. You're going to get shamed.
Sanjay Christopher. It's 3 comments ago. Dalton will not stretch the field. I don't agree. Dalton will absolutely stretch the field, and he's done it.
Let's boo this man. Boo this man. What are you talking about? He had a 23-yard touchdown catch. He had a 47-yard play. He's had a couple long touchdowns this year. That's crazy. Now his rookie season, maybe he hasn't watched this year. Maybe he's thinking of a couple of years ago. Because his rookie season, that's 100% accurate. But my point was, he's become a legitimate threat at tight end. So you got Cook, and you got Kincaid, and you got Josh, and you got an offensive line who is among the top 5, no worse than 7 in all of the NFL. They got great blocking skill players like Hawes and Gilliam. It just feels to me, dude, Shakir is great at what he does. Man, if you could just add, if this offense had, a Stephon Diggs, how unstoppable it feels like it would be. Like when Stephon Diggs was Stephon Diggs, and by the way, I'm not suggesting Stephon Diggs specifically. I'm saying somebody like Stephon Diggs, what he was for the Buffalo Bills. When Stephon Diggs was elite, though, James Cook wasn't what he was right now, and they didn't have a Dalton Kincaid at tight end. What they did, they had a hit or miss guy with Gabe Davis. You know what I'm saying? So, God, it keeps bringing me back to Tuesday, and I can't shake it. If you would have pried, because they didn't go anywhere, okay? But if you could have pried a Chris Olave, or if you could have pried a Brian Thomas Jr. off those teams, or inside your division, you could have pried a Jalen Waddle. Can you imagine the smoke that this offense would have had, man? I got to get over it, though. I got to move on. Let's move on to Miami. Look, Steve, before we talk Sabres to end the show, it's a good team. They're 6-2, but they are in a fight with the New England Patriots. Yo, one of these teams is probably going to go 12-5 and go on the road for the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah,
12-5 is not going to win this division. I'd be willing to bet money that 12-5 doesn't win this division. It's going to take 13 wins to win this division, and that's Also, the injuries. I feel like we talk about this every week. Did you see that injury report, folks, on Wednesday? Holy shit. Did not participate at practice here on Wednesday. Joey Bosa with the wrist. And Dom Tibbetts from Channel 7 put up a video of where it happened. You could see it against the Chiefs. He banged it up pretty good. Anyway, not practicing. James Cook with an ankle, not practicing. A.J. Epinesa with a concussion, not practicing. Teron Johnson, groin. DeQuan Jones, calf. Shaq Thompson, calf. None of them practiced on Wednesday. Palmer, Benford, and Bernard were all limited. Now, I would wait till Thursday before panic would set in, but DNPs on Thursday usually don't bode well for playing. So I would wait till Thursday, but I know who they're playing this week. Miami sucks ass, but that's not the kind of injury list you want to see.
No, and you can't drop a game now. Like you're talking about 12-5 might not win the division, and the Bills, the division should not be the goal for the Buffalo Bills. They need that 1 seed in the bye. They've got to get to that, and I already can't wait for the game in Foxborough because that's going to carry so much weight, and it's going to be the most exciting regular season game we've had in a while, in my opinion. Like, as fun as it is to beat the Chiefs, the reality is, like, if the Bills would have lost, they still were like, 85% to make the playoffs or something. Like, in the grand scheme of things, did it matter? Sure, but not as much as I think that this game in Foxborough is going to matter. That's going to be awesome.
Where's I'm looking right now. So they play Miami this Sunday, then they're at home against Tampa, which should be a fun game. Then they're at short week against Houston on the road, and they're at Pittsburgh, Cincy, at New England, December 14th. Yeah, and by the way, New England's coming off their bye too, so advantage New England in there. I want to address a comment too, because I want to be careful here. Ty on Handy 2276 in the live chat said, don't know why they got rid of Stephon Diggs. He's the only one who made Josh Allen good and made him play up to his standards. I don't agree with that. He won an MVP without Stephon Diggs. But I put up the comment because I feel compelled to say this. I don't want to be somebody who has revisionist history on this show. I know why Stephon Diggs didn't want to be here. Stephon Diggs wanted out. Stephon Diggs was as good as he still was on the field, but his role was declining. Literally the day Joe Brady took over as OC, Stephon Diggs' production went, but it was a lot of stuff that Stephon wanted out, and I think that's pretty well known. So let's not act like Brandon Beane victimized poor Stephon Diggs and traded him against his will. Your boy wanted out of there. So I want to put that out there. Is it hard to take Miami seriously, even with these injuries? The road game, I know you got to win, and I know it's a divisional rival. I mean, this team's just really freaking terrible. Bad, though, man. Oh my God, they're hard to watch. I mean, they fired her GM. I'm surprised they did not fire Mike McDaniel. I'm kind of glad they didn't. Yeah, I had Matt Warren on the show yesterday. One of the best things
happened to the Bills in a long time is Tua Tagovailoa and Mike McDaniels.
Yeah, for 100%. I had Matt Warren on the show from SB Nation yesterday, and he was very glad that Mike McDaniel didn't get fired, because sometimes what happens is a coach gets fired and it kind of rallies the troops a little bit, you know? It's like, hey, it was the coach. It wasn't us. This is a clean slate. And maybe they just magically start to play better. So he's still there. Miami did not make any moves. Well, they traded Jaden Phillips the day before, but a lot of guys that were rumored to be going, they're still there. I don't know, let's put a bow on the Bills. And again, there's a lot of great comments here in the chat. And yes, someone just said, didn't Diggs force his way out? Yes, he absolutely did force his way out. I'm almost afraid to talk Sabres right now. I'm so invested in our Bills conversation, and I know that everybody in the live chat is as well. Is there anything about the Bills that we haven't touched on? I feel like we kind of covered everything. Am I forgetting something?
No, nothing that I can think of other than in the safety position with Jordan and Jordan, man. I'm surprised you're not gassing up Jordan Hancock more. You were riding the Jordan Hancock wagon.
Because he didn't play good.
Yeah,
I'm a big Jordan Hancock guy. Yeah. I'm confident in him. Yeah. He'll learn from Sunday in Arrowhead. I got one other take before we finish off with the Sabres here for a few minutes. I did hear Nick Wright talking, and he said, and I don't agree with this, although I typically would. The Bills did, so Kansas City, it said after the game that kind of like they were shocked at how much dime defense the Bills played and some of the disguises with their coverage. It felt like it does every year. The Bills literally threw the kitchen sink in November at Kansas City. And I remember saying it to the game. And also, like you, I watched the games with my wife, and she's very into it as well. And good observations. And one of the things we were talking about was this Kansas. Now, maybe the Bills' pass rush was making it seem that way, but Kansas City's plan felt kind of vanilla. Like there wasn't nothing elaborate about anything that they were doing. It just felt like, hey, we're trying to win the game. Our starters are playing. We're playing with intensity, but we're playing a lot of base. We're playing a lot of, straightforward football. We're not really showing you much. Nick Wright was hitting on that. I don't disagree, but I would also say this, and we talked about this. Chiefs got 4 losses now. Can they afford to say? I was just going to say,
they got to be careful.
Yeah, like you're going to see Buffalo again in January. I mean, that win all but assured that if they play each other, it's going to be in Orchard Park this time. But do you kind of buy that a little bit, that like the Chiefs weren't maybe showing the Bills their best hand, but still trying to win the game anyway?
I never thought of it like that. I guess I didn't pay much credence to it, but I'm sure it's possible. I mean, we know that the Chiefs are, Andy Reid is such an innovator. But listen, on top of all this, we're talking about the rematch coming in January. Man, I am not too proud to say the Bills have to beat the Chiefs and we're en route to a Super Bowl for it to fucking count. If it means the Chiefs don't make the playoffs or the Chiefs lose in the divisional round or the Chiefs lose it, man, I am not too proud to say, well, since they didn't beat the Chiefs, man, fuck that. If I could make sure the Chiefs don't even make the playoffs, sign me up, because that's where they have to be careful. That's what makes me kind of a little bit nervous about it, is them losing puts them out of the playoff picture. So you can't get too cute in November, saving it for January and risk making it to January in the process.
Agreed, 100%. Kansas City is going to be in a fight to win that division or to even make the playoffs. Their margin for error is definitely starting to slip. That said, part of me would like to say, yeah, it would be great to go through Kansas City to get to a Super Bowl. But to your point, I don't give a shit
Nope.
who they go through. And Kansas City, if there's any team that's not going to be scared to go to Orchard Park in January and win a playoff football game, it's the Chiefs, because they do it literally all the time in the playoffs. They know how to win. And if they get there, they're going to make adjustments and show you shit that the Bills haven't seen. So let's avoid the Kansas City Chiefs on our way to the Super Bowl this year. A Super Bowl where Josh Palmer and Curtis Samuel really step up as we get closer to January. One last comment, because they are playing Miami. Ralph Wilson, 37-28, a regular here on the show. Jordan Poyer revenge game. You know, I'll say this. Holy shit, did he suck last year with the Miami Dolphins. I thought this dude was ass with Miami and that he was done. Like, his career was over. I'll admit it. I rolled my eyes when the Bills signed Jordan Poyer to the practice squad. I'm like, unless this is another Micah Hyde situation, I mean, what the hell are we doing here? I was making fun of the old Bills reunion and yada, yada, yada. I was wrong, because number one, he can still play.
Yep.
And number two, you hit on it earlier. He's been an awesome on-field, in-game mentor for guys like Bishop and for Jordan Hancock, who he's sharing that spot with as well. So I'm glad to be wrong, but holy shit, was he terrible with Miami this year. Although he did help the Bills win a game with that, hit to Keon Coleman's helmet in that game in Orchard Park last year as well. So I saw another comment. I'm trying to find it. I don't know where the hell. Oh, imagine the Bandits not making the playoffs. The Chiefs are the same analog guys. That's a good point, ain't it? I mean, you covered the Bandits. You would know better than anybody.
Yeah, but I mean, the Bandits, if they were winless in the division, I know it's unified standings now. I don't know. Let me have this, okay? Maybe the Chiefs won't make the playoffs. Let us have this, all right?
But that is a fair comparison, though, isn't it?
Yeah, but I don't want to talk about it. It's much more fun when the team you like wins all these championships than the team you hate.
Steve Noble in the live chat said his big worry is still the Ravens. You got me looking up the Ravens schedule right now.
Are they? What are they? Third in their division?
They're 3-5, so they've already gotten 5 losses. I'd say once you get to 7 losses, there's no guarantee you make the playoffs. 10-7, depending on how tiebreakers go, there's no guarantee that you make the playoffs. If you lose 8, you're almost guaranteed to not make it. So they could lose 2 games and still have a reasonable chance. 3 games, they'll definitely be out. Now, it starts this week. They play at Minnesota. That is not an easy game for them. Minnesota just beat Detroit this week, so they still got to play at Minnesota, at home against Cincy. Well, they play Pittsburgh twice. So they play Pittsburgh twice. They play at Green Bay. They play New England. Go Ravens. I'll be rooting for the Ravens that game, obviously. And at Minnesota. There could be 2 to 3 losses in there, man. Ravens are no lock to make the playoffs.
They were losing before Lamar got hurt.
They were strong. There were issues. The defense sucked before Lamar got hurt. I hope you're right, man. I don't want to see them either. Again, I don't give a shit who the Bills play to get to Super Bowl. Just get there. Last few minutes here. Thank you, everyone. If you're here only for the Bills, man, I certainly appreciate you stopping by. Time for a little bit of Sabres talk, which surprisingly has been kind of fun for me this year. I've watched I can't remember what game it was. I definitely missed one game and I missed parts of a couple others, but I've watched a lot more games through the first 13 this year than normal. The Buffalo Sabres are overtime merchants. Like I said, 5 consecutive overtime games in a row. The good news is that they're picking up points even with all these injuries, and they've been hit hard. Must be a Buffalo thing by injuries, man. Yeah. And they're not getting buried in the standings in the first month, which wouldn't have surprised you, especially when they started the season 0-3. So a nice bounce back. The bad news, they're only 1-4 in those overtime games. So that's 4 points. It's points left on the table, 4 of them. And they've only picked up, a 2-point win in 5 of their 13 games this season. As we're recording this anyway, the Sabres are just 2 points out of a wild card spot. But the Sabres are just 2 points from being dead last in the entire Eastern Conference. That's how crazy that conference is. Talk about the new players, because I feel like that has really keyed the success of the Sabres, the competitiveness that the Sabres have had this season so far, Steve.
Josh Stone might be my favorite player right now. I wanted Dylan Cousins to be my favorite player. I wanted the two-way, nasty, pops in a few goals, high
Sure.
motor. He never, when Garnet Hathaway broke his nose, he never was going to be that. Josh Stone, man, he does not take a second of a shift off. His feet and stick he's like the Energizer Bunny. Just go, 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 go. He goes to the net. He scores goals from in front of the net. He's got good hands. Like, I love watching him play. Kesselring looks really good. He should have scored last night. He had that 10-bell chance from Bo Byram, and Vamelka made an incredible save coming across
Sure.
the crease in the first period. Alex Lyon, how can, UPL made a very good push on Saturday to get some more time the way that he played against Washington. And then Lyon said, actually, this crease belongs to me. Utah had 38 shots last night. Yeah, he gave up
Yeah,
2 goals, but he was fucking lights out.
he was.
Utah is a great team, not a good team, a great team. And the Sabres are missing 4 of their top 6 forwards. I'm not here to tell you that they would be top 6 forwards on other teams. I'm telling you on this team, they are their top 6 forwards, and they played without them, and they took them to a point. And was it lucky? Absolutely. Did they deserve a point last night? Not at all. And you talk about 1-4 in their last 5. Okay, that's 6 points in 5 games. If they would have lost to Toronto in regulation on last Saturday, if they'd have lost to Utah last night, and then won 2 games and lost 2 in overtime, it'd be the same number of points. And I feel like I wouldn't even say people are upset. I think people kind of realize the value of stacking these points, but it's been fun because they're not getting blown out of the building. And here's the other thing, Pat. The Columbus game last Tuesday, they were getting outshot. They didn't get a shot on goal for 12 minutes. They scored 3 goals and got it to overtime. The Washington game, they're down 2 goals 2 minutes in. Pat, they would have folded the tents last year. It would have been wasn't our night. They score 15 seconds later. They end up dominating the game, and they're in the lead 3-2 late. And yeah, they lose, or they win that one in the shootout. Forget that. They win that one in the shootout. This team that would have crumbled or folded the tents or not even been competitive in some of these games is getting loser points. Of course, I want them to win these games, but everyone's saying, oh man, back in April, you're going to look back on these lost points and say, oh man, this hurts. Or how about if you're, in April, if you're in a playoff spot, it's because you have a 7-game point streak in November and
Yeah.
October,
Yeah. Yeah, getting a point against Utah to your point yesterday was really big. How about, you know what it's nice to see too, with all these injuries, and a couple people in the chat have been bringing that up, and 100% this team, again, has been ravaged by injuries just like the Buffalo Bills. It's nice to see, Rosine show some potential now these last couple of games. He's been fun to watch, and I was starting to think that he's going to be a career Rochester guy, or he's going to be a throw-in maybe for part of a bigger trade, but he's given this team a nice boost, and Noah Ostlund has been up for a handful of games. Kind of a mixed bag with him, but hey, man, he scored. He got the Sabres a point on Tuesday night. So, it's nice to see these young kids who you kind of at some point are hoping to count on with these injuries, especially, we're talking about the Bills. For the Bills to get to the Super Bowl, guys are going to have to step up with injuries. Well, it's very early in the season with the Sabres, but these are part of, these 2 guys are helping keep the Sabres afloat right now.
Yeah. You're weathering the storm. Someone made a comment. They haven't had a game without 4 to 6 guys injured. Yeah, and they're still stacking points. They're above 500. And then you would like to think when everybody's healthy, they're going to hopefully get points at a higher clip. I don't know if you heard. I think it was Paul Hamilton had the stat. 3 Sabres have scored their first career goal in the last week. Josh Dunn, Roseanne, and Ostlund.
Wow.
The last time that happened for the Sabres was Richard Schmelik and Yuri Himlev. It's a super unique situation that all these kids are getting thrust in and having to play because of the injuries. But you look at the score sheet last night, and the only ones on the score sheet were Ostlund from Roseanne. Okay, if you're going to have to play them, then my biggest frustration last night, Pat, 2 frustrations from last night. One, Jack Quinn in overtime. What the fuck was he doing? He is standing between Clayton Keller and Alex Lyon, and he stepped to the side. I think Clayton Keller had the secret password. Whatever he said to Jack Quinn, he sidestepped out of the way like a matador and gave him the look. And Lindy called it out after the game, and I'm glad that he did. The other thing was, people in the stands were critiquing Tage. And I know Tage's shooting percentage is down to 9%, whatever. He hit 2 posts last night. If one of those goes in, nobody's talking about it. And he's skating with Peyton Krebs and Jordan Greenway, for God's sake.
I
Like,
know
I'm not
that
mad
is
at
fair.
Peyton
That
Krebs
is
or
fair.
Jordan Greenway, but this guy is stuck between two guys who are bottom 6 players, and it's not their fault. I don't want Jordan Greenway or Peyton Krebs off the team. I'm not angry that they're playing for the Sabres. It's that they are stuck right now. And Lindy was shuffling the lines. He'd put Quinn out there with him. He'd try to get, move this guy up the lineup, put Roseanne out there. They are decimated right now by injuries. And man, oh man, we're going to go right back to your buddy. If Josh Norris was playing these last 5 games,
Started skating today.
if he was playing these last 5 games, I think they win 3 of them. They need his speed. They need him to push other guys down the lineup. They need him to make sure Peyton Krebs is playing on the 4th line and not the 1st line. They need him to make sure that it's not Noah Ostlund having to center the 2nd line, and they can push him down to the bottom 6. And Benson, hearing that he's in a walking boot is devastating. This team is night and day different without him. And the fact that we're talking about all these injuries and we're not saying, yeah, it's understandable why they're not getting any points because they're decimated by injury. Hopefully when they're healthy, they can start racking up some points. They're on a 7-game point streak despite having half of their forward lines destroyed. And it's stupid shit. Zucker's sick. And Lindy said, oh, he's so sick he's not going to play Thursday. Might as well put him on IR for a week for the roster spot. Kulik's got an ear infection that's giving him vertigo or something. What the fuck are we doing? Like, it's just wild. Absolutely wild.
Is Jack Quinn the Sabres version of Keon Coleman? Like, they're younger players. They'll show you something, and they show you just enough that you're like, yeah, I can't give up on this guy. We have an investment in him, and you've seen what he could do out there, folks. You've seen it. And then they don't do it for so long. Now, I know Jack Quinn's had some moments this season, just like Keon Coleman did against the Ravens, but it's kind of like the same kind of deal to me, it feels like. I don't know, man.
Quinn's had some moments, and he's had some moments.
Right. Yeah.
Like last night, I was right behind the net, and I watched him step over, and I literally looked at my buddy and what the fuck was he doing? He just stepped out of the way. It blows my mind how that could, just stand there. People were like, oh, he was standing still. I wish he was standing still. If he was standing still, he might have been in the shooting lane.
I got back-to-back comments from my buddy Mike Menzel, who's here on the live chat. His first one, he said, Lyon has been a pleasant surprise to a goaltender. I would say he's been more than a pleasant surprise. He's been the MVP of this team right now, easily through the first 13 games. He had a question. He says, do the Sabres now have some goaltending to use as trade bait this season? That's a question for you. Do you think so they got 3 up there with the Sabres right now, if you count Ellis, of course, and obviously Levi as well. There's a player, and if you're in the mix and you really need a top 6 forward and you want to put a package together, could a goalie be in the mix there? You gotta at some point, maybe not until after the season, but sometime in the next 12 months for sure, you got to make a decision with these goalies, right?
When you talk about trade bait, though, how much value do they have? Like, your most valuable goalie is going to be Alex Lyon, and you just got to keep him. I mean, if you're making a playoff run this year, you can't let him go. What value does UPL have right now? His stock's
read the screen too. I'm going to throw this in as a question too, because Steve just said, Steve, do you think they will play UPL just enough to trade him?
Well, that's just going to be it. It's going to be his net. Otherwise, I was hoping they'd sprinkle Levi in too, and I don't know if Levi's disgruntled or not. But Levi's 5-0 in the AHL right now, and how much trade value does Levi have? Because sure, he's playing lights out in the AHL, but a team's not going to give you a top 6 forward for Devin Levi. And I know you could package it, but it's always like, oh, they should trade away so-and-so. Well, generally the players that people want to trade away are not good. That's why you want to trade them away. And teams in the NHL aren't going to pay for a player that's not good. Your best goaltending value in a trade right now is Alex Lyon, and there's a 0% chance you're trading him because you're going to ride him until he breaks or until he gets you to the promised land of the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And, like I said, UPL made a strong case on Saturday that he deserves to be getting some time in that because he played very well. He was stone cold in the overtime and the shootout. Unbelievable.
Yeah, he was.
And after Washington scored those first 2 goals, which were not his fault, he was hung out to dry on both of them.
3 minutes into the game, too.
Yeah, and he played outstanding.
Sure.
But it's Lyon just made sure on Tuesday to put his foot down and say, this crease still belongs to me. So, we'll see what happens. The other thing, too, I saw in the comments, Pat, is people talking about the attitude they play with. I don't think I see a single whistle around the blue paint, whether it's in Buffalo zone or the opponent's zone, that guys aren't face-washing, bear-hugging, pushing, shoving, and I love it. Like, they're not fighting. Yeah. I'm not asking them to fight. They're not taking penalties. They're not cross-checking guys in the teeth. but they're making you smell their gloves. They're putting you in a headlock. They're pushing you out of the way. They're poking Benson every time the goalie freezes the puck. Benson's poking at it, just pissing people off. And I'm like, I have not seen this from the Sabres in a super long time, and everybody's buying in. You got Tage Thompson mixing it up. You got, of course, guys like Greenway in them, but you have top six forwards who at the end of a whistle are shoving guys around and sticking their fingers up their noses and, dirtying their visors. And I love it because it brings energy to the game, but it also shows that they're kind of sticking up for each other and they got a little bit of skin in the game. They're invested in each other and, taking care of each other. So
I want to get to one more question here. It was from Ralph Wilson. He said, unbelievable. Owen Power failure was the first overall mistake. All right. I'm sure you're going to say that. You're not ready to go there, nor am I.
22.
Nor am I. But
he stinks.
Is the patience wearing thin when it comes to Owen Power? Is it fair now to start wondering, all right, well, whether it's Kesselring, whether it's Samuelson, whether it's Byram, whether it's Timmins, who's played a lot with, no matter who it is, these guys are playing good. He's not, from what I'm seeing anyway.
They got to reduce his time, Pat. Why is he playing so much in overtime? Why is he playing, so many power play minutes? They should have Byram on the power play instead of Power right now. Like, it's a soft benching, I think, is what it needs, because he stinks. He's not playing well. But I still am not ready to give up on a 22-year-old defenseman in the NHL. That will come back to burn you. If they trade Owen Power, he's going to be getting a Norris Trophy and a Stanley Cup in 4 years, and you're going to go back. Not just on the Sabres level, like he's going to be. I would bet a lot of money that he's going to be a Norris level defenseman. And you can call me crazy, but how many times do you see these guys at 21, 22, and you're like, they just can't figure it out, and then they get to be 25 and 26, and they are, top of the line defenseman in the NHL.
Yeah, last thing here too. So tough stretch coming up. So most people will be listening to this on Thursday. So for you people tonight, the Sabres host St. Louis. Feels like you got to go get 2 points.
Go get game.
2. They're playing back to back. It'll be the second. They just lost 6-1 here on Wednesday night against the Capitals. So they're going to be tired. You got to go out. I know there's still guys out. You got to get those 2 points, because after that, a tough 4-game road stretch. They're going to Carolina, Utah, Colorado, and Detroit. So stack those 2 points against the Blues, and look, just don't do better than 0-4.
Sure.
On a very tough road trip, but it's tough sledding coming up here with the Sabres.
You got to figure Kulik and Zucker will be back Saturday. I mean, they're sick. They're not hurt. So you got to figure they'll be back Saturday. Kozak was not ruled out for Thursday, and I love Tyson Kozak. And as much as I like Roseanne and Oslin, Kozak is just a different breed. He goes to the net so hard. I'm ready for Tyson Kozak to be back. And who knows with Norris skating, what's going to happen there. And I don't know what's going on with Benson either. That's tough. I hope Tooch is wrong on that one.
Tooch. I was starting to wonder about Tooch. Tooch is a regular on our show. He pops in all the time, man. But I haven't seen him live in a couple
popped
episodes.
In just to shit on my parade about the Sabres.
He did. Kevin said over. He probably bounced now before you even got to respond to him, man. Kind of feels like a good way to end this show too, as well. Fun talk. I just, I think when it comes to the Bills, Steve, we're going to say the same things, and the questions ultimately will get answered in January. Yep. That's what it comes down to. How they perform in January. If they don't win, why didn't they win? If Josh goes and throws 4 picks and the defense is shred, there's lots of things, and no one player would have mattered. Let's see how things play out. But I wanted to trade. They didn't get one. I'm on to Miami. Sure you are.
We're on to Miami
as well, man. I do want to thank everybody here in the live chat. Of course, everybody who's going to listen and watch this, hopefully throughout the day, sometime on Thursday. Appreciate you all very much. Appreciate my guy, Steve Bermel, for joining me live here tomorrow. Bills, Dolphins preview, 3 keys to victory, bowl predictions, all that stuff, and plenty more. Coming up tomorrow for Steve, I'm Patrick. Talk to you guys later.